Now the third question from Mr. Goley.
Okay. For me, am I asked this question?
Yes, your third question.
Okay, third question. I did answer the question. I said no, he couldn't if he holds to Luther's view, but he could use the word faith alone. Okay, here's my question. Why you've had almost 50 years now. You have no cardinals. You have no hierarchy. Why don't you study the contest, get together, get the Roman clergy or whoever else you believe can elect another pope and elect them?
Because, as we've pointed out throughout this debate, the tradition of the Church in the first millennium is that the clergy has the prerogative to elect the Pope of Rome, okay? Not the clergy of some other locality. That's the reason. And you keep emphasizing that there's no mechanism. The laws of the papal conclave are ecclesiastical laws. That's why they've been changed, okay? And there's a principle in canon law called the intrinsic cessation of law, referring to disciplinary laws, that when they become harmful to the Church, or when those laws have passed out of usefulness, okay, they cease to apply in that particular situation. That applies to ecclesiastical laws. That's why it's a law that you cannot consecrate a bishop without a papal mandate, but in a certain necessity, when it needs to be done, you can do it, okay?
And also one other thing is that Pope Paul IV, when he's talking about how a Catholic cannot accept a heretic as pope, he doesn't go on and say, and therefore people should get together and elect a pope. And that they're just acknowledging the fact that this guy who claims to be pope is a heretic. It doesn't state what you're supposed to do after that point in time. It's just that you're to acknowledge the clear-cut fact, which we can see, that this guy's a manifest heretic and therefore not pope, period.
And against a fact, there is no argument, okay? People can raise all kinds of points about how distressing that might seem, but against a fact, there's no argument. It's a fact that a heretic cannot be the pope, and it's a fact that the Vatican II antipopes are heretics. That's it for that answer.
All right, 2-minute rebuttal.
Yeah, basically the Diamond Brothers admit they don't know. They simply don't know. And I think unless they can answer that question, they cannot win this debate. They don't know. I asked them a very specific question. Why hasn't the Roman clergy gotten together after almost 50 years and elected another pope? Think about the craziness of their position here. They have asserted, contrary to what they may have said earlier, that if somebody doesn't accept their Sedevacantism position and their interpretation of no salvation outside the church, they're not a Catholic. They're a heretic. They're the first ones to call someone a heretic. So think about the absurdity. They're going to have to find the clergy of Rome that has to be Sedevacantist. They have to accept everything that their interpretation, and then they would have to get together and elect the Pope. Think about that. I don't even know if there's anyone in Rome that would hold to that position. I seriously doubt it. And even then, we have a question of whether even that would be valid, because we wouldn't know. It's never happened. We simply don't know. And that's what they're asking you to believe. They're saying, hey, this has never happened in history. We're quoting all these passages because, we have 47 years to do this. We're quoting all these passages, accept our interpretation, and this has never happened in history, and these guys are heretics, and we don't know how you're going to get out of this mess because we don't even know if there is a Roman clergy. So could it be that they're wrong? Could it be that their interpretation is just simply wrong, and that maybe these guys aren't the greatest popes in the world, but they still are validly elected? I think the conclusion is obvious.
Okay, the third question from Brother Michael and Brother Peter Diamond.
In his encyclical Quanta Cora, Pope Pius IX solemnly condemned the idea that religious liberty should be a universal civil right. This is because the state has the duty to protect the Catholic religion and forbid the public expression of false creeds which lead people to hell. This condemnation of the right to religious liberty was repeated by many popes, including in Pope Pius IX's famous Syllabus of Errors. But at Vatican II, in the Declaration on Religious Liberty, Dignitatis Humanae, Paul VI solemnly taught that religious liberty should be a universal civil right. How can Paul VI be a true pope and Vatican II a true council, when at Vatican II Paul VI solemnly taught exactly what the Catholic Church solemnly condemned?
Well, first off, again, we get into this whole aspect of the interpretation of the council, which seems to, as you say, contradict earlier teaching. I have right in front of me a 9-page letter. Well, I'm sorry, a 9-page piece of work that Father William Most wrote on this very topic, and he obviously totally disagrees with you. He says that Vatican II did not condemn religious liberty. It merely asserted that people have a freedom from coercion. I encourage anyone, again, to do a Google search on this. He goes through it unbelievably, point by point. And also he has a book out, Catholic Apologetics Today. He also deals with this quite thoroughly, and I think he does a very adequate job in showing that the religious liberty does not contradict. Again, I go back to my basic point, is that in order for your position to be correct, we have chaos, so your interpretation of these documents cannot be correct. But I also encourage you two guys to go and read most things. He does a just type religious liberty in Google, and you'll print up his 9-page work, and it's very, very good. That's all I have on that.
Okay. He said that it was our interpretation. No, this is Benedict XVI's interpretation, and he actually admits that Vatican II's teaching on religious liberty contradicts Pope Pius IX's teaching on religious liberty. So you don't have to take our word for it. You can take the word of the man he thinks is the Pope. Principles of Catholic Theology, page 381, Benedict XVI. If it is desirable to offer a diagnosis of the text as a whole, referring to the Vatican II document Gaudium et Spes, in conjunction with the texts on religious liberty and world religions, it is a revision of the syllabus of Pius IX, a kind of counter-syllabus. As a result, the one-sidedness of the position adopted by the Church under Pius IX was to a large extent corrected. And he goes on to say that there can be no return to the syllabus of Pius IX. So here you have his very Pope. Okay, how much more could we need to show to prove the point? Admitting exactly what we just said, which is so obvious even to anyone who reads the text and knows what the Church teaches.
Yeah, so Mr. Goli is saying our interpretation's ridiculous when the man who he believes is the Supreme Pontiff is saying it, we have exactly the same understanding. We understand what Benedict XVI is saying, okay, because he admits what he's saying.
He admits it's a counter-syllabus of Pius IX. Okay, and it's very clear from the text, Dignitatis Humanae number 3 says the state exceeds its authority if it dares to direct or prevent religious activity. The state cannot, therefore, prevent religious activity. That's directly condemned in number 77. It says, it is of the syllabus of errors of Pius IX. It is no longer expedient that the Catholic religion should be the only religion of the state to the exclusion of all other cults. Condemned. And that's what I'd say about that.